G'day mate, and welcome back to Bushcraft Adventures with Rory. Today we're going to be reviewing No, that's my other YouTube channel. Hello and welcome back to the next video in the Wized Beginner series. In this video we are wrapping up crud with Airtable. We're going to look at how to delete a single item from Airtable. So as we progress through this beginner series, we're going to start exploring some more software architecture or database architecture and some of the inner workings of a business or web application or WWX project. When it comes to deleting a record from a database, there are actually two types of delete action, and we're going to look at those. So when you're in conversation with a client and they say that on a particular page they want to delete a record, you, being the knowledgeable web application developer that you are going to ask which type of delete would you like, and you'll then proceed to explain to them the difference. So there are two ways to delete a record from any database. The first is a hard delete. This is where we directly delete the record. We're using the delete function of whatever database or backend we're in, and these are usually only recoverable if the database or backend vendor or provider provides some sort of backup or restoration or some sort of trash where you can recover deleted records. The second is where we keep the record in the database, but we mark it as deleted and we update the front end or Wized logic to reflect this, to no longer show that record as being available. Now, there are lots of different use cases for when you would use either of these. Soft delete is pretty common if you don't want users to just outright delete records. You may want to keep them for legal or regulatory purposes. You may want users to be able to undelete them later on. It's common that if you have digital assets that users are putting a lot of time into, you probably don't want them to be able to hard delete them. You may just want them to archive them instead. Hard delete is more often something you'll use as the developer. You may want to delete user records if they're inactive for more than a year, as an example. Just know about these two different types and work out which is best. Maybe you want a mix of both. Over in our Wiz project, we're going to start with hard delete. On our view story page, I've added some new elements. The first is a delete button, and I have a unique attribute on it, story card delete button. Underneath that, all of these elements are inside a div block. That div block has WizCloak and it's called story card delete confirmation wrapper. This is going to be hidden until the user clicks delete story. We'll then show this message, are you sure you want to delete? The user will have the option of soft delete with its own Wized attribute, hard delete with its own Wized attribute, and cancel will cancel this operation by hiding this div again. This text also has a Wized attribute because we're going to change it. And then we have a spinner for while the delete request is happening, also with its own unique Wized attribute. If you're building your own app and following along, you can replicate a similar structure. It's also quite common to have a modal pop-up, which is essentially the same thing. You will hide it initially and then show it. You just turn it into a modal, or you can just copy the clonable for this tutorial. Back over to Wized, and we're going to go into one of our stories. The first thing we need is a variable to track if the user has clicked delete story. So we're going to go over to the data store, and we're going to create a new variable, and we're going to call it user deleting story. The initial value is going to be false. We want this to initially be hidden until the user starts the delete process. We don't want it to persist in storage because if the user goes away and comes back, we want that hidden and we don't need to compute it. Next, we're going to create an action on our story card delete button. We'll click onto the element, go up to the Add Element Events window, and create a new event. The event is going to be click, and the action is going to be set variable. Variable is user deleting story, and we want to change the value to true. Then we're going to do the inverse on our cancel delete button. So let's click our story card cancel delete button, and we are going to add an event here, set variable, user deleting story, and we want that to change it to false. Lastly, we need to select this overall wrapper, story card delete confirmation wrapper. Visibility, very simple, is going to be return user deleting story is equal to false. And this will actually work if we just do it like this also, because if it's equal to false, the function editor returns false. So if we close the X-ray and refresh our canvas, it'll start off hidden. If we click delete story, we'll be able to see all of this. If we click cancel, it's going to hide it. That's the first part. Deleting anything is a dangerous action, even if it's a soft delete, so we want the user to be able to confirm. Next up, I thought I had put Wized Cloak on here. I have, but it's still setting as visible. It looks like the set visibility on the wrapper is cascading down. Anyways, we only want to return this if our request to delete is created, which we haven't actually made yet. So let's come back to that in a moment. We're going to go over to requests. We're going to create a new request, and we're going to call that hard delete single story. Folder is going to be story crud. App is going to be Airtable. For method, we want to use delete item. This is going to delete the record in Airtable. Later on, we will use update item for soft delete. For delete item, all we need to do is select our base and our table as normal. For record ID, if you've been following along, we have been keeping this as a path parameter. So up here, or sorry, if I go to canvas, we have a parameter called story ID, and when we click the button, it sets the parameter. So all we need to do in the function editor is return n.parameter.story ID. Nice and simple. That is going to delete the record. Now, over on my spinner, I can go to visibility, render if, and I want to return this if hard delete single story is requesting. Good to go. Okay, lastly, we want to go to our button for hard delete, and we want to set up an event. On click, perform request hard delete single story. Okay, lastly, this message here, story delete message. I want to change the value of the text. So if request dot hard delete single story has requested and request dot hard delete single story is okay, I want to return hard delete successful, redirecting you to story vaults. Now, if this is not happening, this is going to not set any text. It's going to remove the text that I had there. So I'll go over to Wized. I will copy this text, and I want to say else. So if none of the other conditions are true, I want to return that text with a little shad face, like so. Okay. Lastly, I don't want the user to stay on this page. The record is now gone forever. Not forever There's a trash in Airtable workspaces where you can recover these. I think they stay there for up to 7 days. Regardless, I'm going to go to events and create a new one. And I'm going to call it redirect on delete story. I want it to work for both hard and soft delete. Put it in story plus Airtable. The trigger, request finishes, would work if I was only doing it for hard delete. I want it to work with both. I could have 2 events. I like to keep things simple. I'm going to go with a custom condition. And the custom condition will be that hard delete has requested and, oops, that's or, and hard delete is okay. And if that is true, I want to redirect the user. Now, I want them to see the success message. The other way you could do this is on the story vault, you would have what's called a session message up the top, or a status message. And that would say name of story has been deleted, and you would have an X to delete that message. That's a bit more complicated. We need to track when the user goes back to that page that a record has been deleted. So we'll keep it simple and we'll just do this for now. I can't use navigate to because I want there to be a delay. So I'm going to go to run function. We are going to use a function in JavaScript called set timeout. What this is going to do is run any code inside here after a delay that you specify in milliseconds. So 3000 milliseconds is 3 seconds. That's how long it'll take this to run. From there, to change the page is very simple. We have access to n.path, and we can change that to set a page to send the user to. So in this case, we're just going to say n.path is equal to story false, like so. Okay, so our delete is ready to go. We have the spinner set up for while the request is running. We have the success message set up, and we also have redirecting to the story vault. So let's give it a go. Hard delete story, hard delete successful, redirecting you to story vault, and we get redirected after the 3 seconds. If we go over to Airtable, we will see that our story is no longer there. So unlike a soft delete, it is deleted out of Airtable for good. Okay, next up is soft delete. What we need to do is create a column in Airtable to track that. Now, the way you'd usually approach this, if you were new to web application development, is you'd create a checkbox and you'd call it deleted. This does work, but it's not something in more advanced web applications that you'll see. The reason for that is there's a better way to do it that's more common. That is, we create a date and time field. Let's go for friendly date. And we're going to call this deleted at. The reason this is more common is this actually stores 2 pieces of information. If there is no date and time, the record is not deleted. If there is a date and time, the record is deleted, and we also capture the time that it was deleted at. Keeping these timestamps is pretty common. In Xano, for example, when you create a new table, it automatically has a column to track when it was created. We often track when a user last logged in. It's useful information to have. Now, if you are very concerned about database size, in more complex traditional development, if you're developing, say, embedded computers that are going to go into cars and every piece of memory counts, you might use the Boolean, just because if you really get down to the low level, it takes up less space in the database. Majority of the time for web applications, we're going to do this with a timestamp. Let's delete that. Okay, back over to Wized. We want to create a new request. This request is going to be called soft delete story, and folder is going to be story crud. App is going to be Airtable. Method is going to be update item, not delete item. Base and table are going to be the same as always. And for the record ID, we are once again going to return n.parameter.storyID. Tells us straight away, based on the parameter, what our story is. Down here, we want to go down to deleted at. Now, for created, we weren't entering this in Wized. The reason is created at is actually a special kind of field that tracks automatically the created time. We can't do this for this column, so we're going to pass that in automatically. Now, we need to, one, know the type of date and time that Airtable wants to receive, and we need to write that with JavaScript. Again, back over to ChatGPT, it probably knows how to work with Airtable. Write JavaScript to return the current date and time in a format that Airtable will accept for date and time column. And a smiley face. I'm always polite to AI, you never know. Sometimes if I have the time, I read through which response I prefer. I'm going to go for the one with the explanation. Okay. So we don't actually need all of this. Anyways, let's copy it and paste it in here. So it's assigning a constant and setting that to a new date, to isostring, and then console logging it. We're going to get rid of that. We're going to get rid of this, and we're just going to return that. And if we run it, we should see it there. That looks good. Okay, let's go into a story. And did we delete that story? I think we deleted that story. Okay, into this one. Can't read it, but it's good to see that users of all different languages are watching these tutorials. Love to see it. So we want to map up this button, soft delete story. We'll open X-Ray, click the button, go up to the element events panel, add event, on event click. I want to perform request soft delete story. And just to keep things tidy, I had hard delete single story, so this should be soft delete single story. Okay, back over to the button. Did I set that all upright? Yes, okay. Next is I want the spinner, I want the success message, and I want the redirect to work with these. Let's go into the message first and into here. If hard delete requesting is okay, show this text. I'm going to grab that, and to add a new conditional check, I'm going to say else if. I'm going to remove this, and I'm going to say request dot soft delete dot has requested and request dot soft delete dot okay. So what it's going to do, it's going to check, is this true? If it's not, is this true? If none of those are true, are you sure you want to delete the story? Leave that text there. I just need to change this to soft delete. Okay. Close out of that. Next is the spinner. If I go up to elements, we can pick story card delete spinner and go into our visibility. So we want to render if hard delete is requesting or if soft delete is requesting, and close out of that. Next up is the event. Over to the events panel, into redirect on delete story. Currently we're doing it if hard delete has requested and is okay, or if this request or this conditional inside these brackets is true. R dot soft delete has requested and R dot soft delete is okay. Then our code for the function stays the same. We want to redirect to story vault regardless of whether they do a soft delete or a hard delete. So let's test it out. I'm on a different story now, this one about Dogs living on the moon. Lovely. I'll go down to the bottom, delete story, soft delete story, soft delete successful, redirecting you to the story vault. That worked correctly. Now, it's still here. I'll come back to that in a moment. Over in Airtable, we can see that it has added the deleted at date. Perfect. Now, the last step is we need to update our request that pulls in stories to not pull in any that have a timestamp for deleted at. There's two ways we could go about this. The first is in the data store, we have a variable to hold all records that we get back from our all records or all stories response. And we are filtering that based on our search input. So we get the entire request data and we filter based on name, prompt, response. ChatGPT wrote this for us. We could add this in here if we were being lazy, which we're not going to be. The issue then is as your app grows and there's hundreds and thousands or tens of thousands of soft deleted records, we do not need to be pulling these to the front end unless we later have a page to undelete them, which we're not going to do now. What we're going to do instead is go into requests and into soft delete single story. No, sorry, wrong spot. We're going to go into get, not single story, get all stories. Over here we have filters, which we have not yet been using. And we are going to add a filter. We want to include record if. This lets us pick an alphabetically sorted list of columns. We want to pick deleted at. Now the conditions are does not equal, does not include, equals, and includes. So we got to get a little clever here. And we're going to go with equals. And what we want to check is does it equal an empty string? That will return all the records that do not have a deleted date and time. So if we let that refresh, if we refresh the canvas, there we go. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4 prompts. Over here, we have 5. It is not pulling in this. Excellent. That is what we want. Now what will happen is if we expand this, we can pull the record ID from here. We can go over to Wized, we can go into the canvas, and we can put the ID in here. And if we navigate to view story, is it going to keep that? Yeah, it's going to keep it. So this can still be accessed. If you would like a challenge to do while following along with this video, the challenge is to not show this and to show an error message instead. This record no longer exists, something like that. That is it, ladies and gentlemen. That is how we do a hard delete or a soft delete. As a recap, for the hard delete, or well, for both of them, we created a div down here that is only visible when our new variable user deleting story is equal to true. This is equal to false by default. If you click delete story, it will show it. If you click cancel, it'll set it back to false. If we go for hard delete, we are going to use the delete record method inside our Airtable request. That is going to delete it. If we use soft delete, it is going to edit the record and it is going to add the date and time of now to the deleted at column in Airtable. And then we also have our message, we have our spinner, and we have our event that is going to use JavaScript to redirect the user. Let's just test that that's all working. If we publish this and go back to the front end, this should be gone. Yep. And if we go into view more, and if we go to delete and go to soft delete, we'll see our spinner, our text will change, and we'll be redirected back to the story vault where we will no longer see that story. Congratulations, you have now put into practice CRUD, create, read, update, and delete. This is going to be a part of almost every web application that you build. You're going to see this come up, you're going to see it in the interfaces, in backend services, and you're just going to be using it all the time. So hopefully this has brought you up to speed with it. Before we start exploring other backends, we are going to learn how to do some simple user authentication with Airtable. Log in and register, and we're then going to change around our story generator so that users can only see and view and edit and delete their own stories. That's up next. As always, if you are enjoying these videos, give it a like, give the channel a subscribe. Please do leave your comments with your feedback, the good, the bad, the ugly, and any suggestions for videos you'd like to see in the future. That's all from me. I'm Rory. This is Wized. Keep on building.